Hello, Matthews Gatos here. In this video, we're going to cover 4.2, but before we do that, let's review Pythagorean Theorem and Sakatowa. In the first example here, I have a right triangle, and I have two side lengths, and I want to find the third. So I use Pythagorean Theorem to do that. So I'll do a squared plus b squared equals to c squared. It doesn't matter which one you call a or b, as long as you know that this one is c because it's the longest side. So I have that x squared is going to equal to 24 squared minus 8 squared. So since I add 8 squared to both sides, I subtract 8 squared to both sides. So x squared is going to equal to, I can put that into my calculator. So 24 squared take away 8 squared is, this is what x squared is, 512. But x is just going to be the square root of that, which is 22.6. So I know that x, the answer to this, is 22.6 centimeters. Okay, let's look at the next one. So in this 90-degree angle triangle, I'm solving for an angle. So let's label the sides according to that angle. So this is opposite and this is adjacent, which is tangent. So let's write that out. Tangent of x is opposite over adjacent. Now, we don't have the angle, we want the angle. So x is going to be second tan of 12 divided by 26. So we can put that into our calculator to figure out what angle x is. And I do that, and to the nearest degree, I get that x is equal to 25 degrees. So in this lesson, we're going to look at solving complex problems. So some of the steps that I want you guys to focus on when you're doing this. What information do you have in the triangle? Do you have angles? Do you have side lengths? What information do I need to find? Am I trying to find an angle or a side length? And what are the tools that I have to use? Well, I can use Pythagorean Theorem, I can use Sakatowa, and I can use angles in a triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to do a bunch of examples. You guys can pause the video at any time, rewind what I've said, or pause it just to write down what I'm doing. Okay, in the first one here, I want to calculate x and y. So first thing you notice is that I labeled this angle as 53. Let's talk about how I got that. Angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if I have 37 degrees here, and I have a 90-degree angle there, this angle here has to be 53 to add up to 180. So if I know that this is a 90-degree angle, 90 take away 53 means this is 37. And then angles in a triangle add to 180. So 37 and 90 plus 53 gives me 180. So that's where I got the 53. So before I can find x by itself, I have to find y first because I don't have enough information in my right-hand triangle to find x. So looking at this, I have an opposite side and I have a hypotenuse. Opposites and hypotenuse is sine. So let's write out what we have. Sine of 53 is opposite y over hypotenuse 4.9. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4.9, which is the opposite of dividing. I have to use opposite operation and be fair. So y is equal to 4.9 multiplied by the sine of 53. So in doing so, I get that y is 3.9 meters. So now that I know y is 3.9 meters, I can use that to find out what x is. So back in my triangle over here, let's call y over here, we'll label that as 3.9. I have 3.9 for y and an angle, and I want to find this side length. Well, this angle has an opposite side of 3.9, and the adjacent side is x. So opposites and adjacent, we're dealing with tangents. So let's write this out. So tangent of 37 degrees is equal to opposite 3.9 over adjacent, which is x. So I'm going to put that over 1, and I'm solving for my variable, so I'm going to cross multiply and divide. So 1 times 3.9 divided by tan of 37, and that will give me side length x. And you can see that x then is equal to 5.2 meters. Okay. Page 215, example 2a. I want to find x and y in this diagram. So looking at x, I have three sides of a triangle. I can just use Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So again, it doesn't matter which one is a or b. Just know that c is x squared. So x squared is going to equal to 8.6 squared plus 9.4 squared. So this is what x squared equals. So what I really want to know is, what does x equal? And since that's what x squared is, x is equal to the root of that, which is 12.7. So we know x is 12.7 centimeters. So in our next example, we want to find out, in the next part of the example, we want to find out what y is. So if I now know this is 12.7, look at your angle. I have an opposite, and this one here is an adjacent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So if I write this out, tangent of 48 degrees is equal to, no, sorry, let's look at this again. This is a hypotenuse. I did this wrong. Let's look at this again. Back up the bus. Okay, so we do have the 12.7 is adjacent. That part was right, but let me look at y again. Y is not opposite. It's opposite the 90-degree angle, which is the hypotenuse. So I have cosine, adjacent and hypotenuse. I'm going to use cosine. So let's try that again. The cosine of 48 degrees is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, which is y. Again, my little trick, I put it over 1, and I use cross multiply and divide. So 1 times 12.7 divided by cos of 48 is equal to y. And you can see that y is equal to 19 centimeters. Let's look at part B of this question. So in part B, I want to solve for x. Now, to solve for x and y, let's talk about x first. If I call this side length a and this side length b, x is then equal to a plus b. So if I find a and b, I can just add them together to figure out what x is. So let's find a in the first one. I have 32 degrees, an opposite and adjacent. This is tangent. So tangent of 32 degrees is opposite a over adjacent 6.7. So since I've divided by 6.7, I will do the opposite operation, which is multiply both sides by 6.7. So I'm going to do 6.7 times by the tan of 32, and that's going to give me A. So looking at A is 4.2. So far I know that X is 4.2 plus. Now let's figure out what B is. So B, same idea. I have 48 degrees. I have an opposite of B, and the adjacent is 6.7. So I'll write that out. So tan of 48 degrees is equal to opposite B over adjacent 6.7. So I'm going to multiply this side by 6.7 and this side by 6.7. So B is going to equal to 6.7 multiplied by tan of 48. So 6.7 times tan of 48, my B value is 7.4. So back up here, 7.4, X is going to equal to 11.6 meters. Okay, so now that I know A and B, and consequently then X, I can now solve Y. So this side length here, the adjacent side length here, or the common side is 6.7. I just solved that this side here is 7.4, and I want to find out what y is. So really, I can use Pythagorean Theorem. So I can do that 6.7 squared plus 7.4 squared is going to equal to c squared, which is y. Okay, so 6.7 squared plus 7.4 squared, I can put that into my calculator, and there I get what y squared is equal to, but I don't want y squared, I want what y is, so take the square root of both sides. So y is really equal to 10, and then the units meters. So now I have x and y. Okay, on page 219, number 4, I want to look at this question here. So from a point on a building, the angle of elevation to the top of another building is 40. The angle of depression down to the bottom is 25 degrees. And building number 1 is 200 meters tall. So I want to solve for what the height of the building is. So I've already figured out what A is. So I'm halfway there to the height. I need to solve for B first here. So looking at this triangle here, the bottom triangle, I have an angle. I have a side that is opposite, and I have a side that is adjacent, which is tangent. So tangent of 25 degrees in here is opposite 200 over adjacent, which is b. So when you have your variable in the denominator, place this over 1, and then you just have to do cross multiply and divide. So 1 times 200 divided by the tan of 25. Plug that into my calculator and I get that b is equal to 428.9. So now that I know that this is the side length of b, I can now solve for the side length c. So this is 428.9. So I have an angle, I have the side that is adjacent, and I'm solving for the side that is opposite. So I have tan of 40 degrees is equal to opposite c over adjacent 428.9. So since I'm dividing by 428.9, to get rid of that, I'll do the opposite operation, which is multiply by 428.9, and I do opposite operation and be fair. So multiplying 428.9 multiplied by the tan of 40, I do that, and I get a C value of 359.889. So I'm going to call this 360, just rounding it. So this is 360. And that is meters. So now that I know what the side length C is, and I know what side length A is, I can add those two to get the height. So this side length right here, we can label side C, we now know is 360. And we know that the height of building 1 is 200. So if I add these two together, I get the total height of building number 2. So building number 2, 560 meters. Okay, and let's look at question number 9. So we have Sylvie and Matthew are bird watching, and they're looking at a nest at the top of the tree. And really what they want to do is know how high up above the ground is that nest. So when they're looking at this, Matthew is 89 meters from the tree. The angle between Sylvie and Matthew's line of sight is 73, and the angle of elevation from Sylvie to the top of the tree is 35 degrees. I want to know the height of the nest. So I can't solve that directly. I'm going to solve side y first. So if I look at this, I have 73 degrees. I have a side here that is opposite, and my y value will equal to the hypotenuse. So opposites and hypotenuses are sine. So let's write this out. Sine of 73 degrees is equal to opposite, which is 89, over hypotenuse, which is y. Whenever we're solving for the variable, I put the other side over 1, and then I can just use cross multiply and divide. So 1 times 89 divided by sine of 73, that is going to give me my y value. So my y value is 93.1 meters. Once I know that, I can now put that on in my triangle and use that information to solve for x. So this is 93.1. Looking at your angle, this side here is opposite and this side here is adjacent. Opposites and adjacents are tangent. So let's write that out. So tangent of 35 degrees is equal to opposite x over adjacent 93.1. So multiply both sides by 93.1. And I get that x is equal to 93.1 multiplied by tan of 35, and you can see I get 65.1, and units are meters. That is the height of the tree. So hopefully all of these examples helped. I want you guys to now go on to do these build your skills questions, and then tomorrow's class we'll do some three-dimensional problems and a little bit more word problems. So I hope this video helped, and I'll see you soon.